Just because you can doesn't mean you should or that you even want to. And so refining your F management comes down to identifying what those highest values are and letting them be, and not making yourself wrong for caring about exactly what you care about and nothing that you don't. So it makes it a lot easier to say yes or no, because you know what you value. And if it doesn't relate or can't link to it somehow, then it's just not for you right now. And you can just trust if it comes back.
What would the world look like if people felt like they mattered? Welcome to the Lead with Love podcast, exploring what it means to lead with love in business and life. I'm your host, Jada Selner, and in this show, I'll share meaningful conversations to help you, the creative, the entrepreneur, the world changer, reach more people, go after your dreams, and serve your community with love. I appreciate you joining me. Now, let's get cozy and start today's episode. Do you ever get to a place where things start to feel stressful and not enjoyable anymore? If you want to create a simple and inspired life on your terms without the guilt, this episode is for you. You'll learn how to manage your expectations, identify your priorities, nurture relationships, and stay focused on what matters to you. In today's conversation, I get cozy with one of my closest friends plus biz BFF, Nikki Elledge Brown. Now, Nikki is a mom of 3, known online for her practical teaching style and refreshingly honest and also humorous reflections on the realities of parenthood and entrepreneurship. She's a speaker, teacher, author, and mentor who quickly built her name. And we'll actually talk about this in this episode, being able to build her name, build a highly profitable business for herself and her family by helping service-based biz owners communicate with clarity and confidence through her first online program, a course about copy. And Nikki, she's a cool kid around town because she has not only been featured on NBC News, military.com, she is a milspouse, but also a reality TV episode on Discovery Channel that led to a surprise cameo on Orange is the New Black. I used to obsess over watching that show. Nikki has also been known as the online park ranger, like a legit park ranger at Pearl Harbor, welcoming millions of visitors to the USS Arizona Memorial since 2010. And Nikki launched the Naptime Empires podcast, soon to be book, to help family-focused entrepreneurs feel less alone in their journey. Her mission is to help high-achieving women avoid burnout so they can lead for the long haul and enjoy the success that they've created. So for more tips and inspiration, you can follow Nikki on Instagram at Nikki Elledge Brown, NikkiElledgeBrown.com, and via her podcast at NaptimeEmpires.com. Now let's get cozy with Nikki. Nikki.
Tada, tada, tada.
Okay, so we were just talking. We have these conversations with each other 24/7 as Voxer BFFs. And we were just talking about consistent content because we're not very consistent with content always in, I don't know, our business worlds.
Right, on the public internet.
Yes. But we're very consistent with valuable, insightful, loving, strategic content within our Voxer thread.
100%.
And I think for anyone who doesn't know, you were basically like episode 101, because I was trying to be school about my episode numbers for the Lead with Love podcast. I went 000 and then I went 101. So anyways, that conversation, you actually interviewed me to kind of kickstart where I was coming from and where I was going with the Lead with Love podcast. And that was in 2018.
Wow.
And now we're on year 3, season 3 of the Lead with Love podcast. And for those who don't know, Nikki is one of my best friends. And she's also just a creative, like, I almost feel like for us, we're like co-creators, co-coaches, co-working buddies. But we met in 2013. We were in a online business school program course thing. We didn't know each other at that time, but you were in Hawaii, right?
Yep.
And I had just moved from Hawaii a couple years before, and I was in California. And I remember you posting this post that basically talked about money. Do you remember what exactly that post said? Because I think because I want to create the context of how...
I don't. There was a lot of posting going on in 2013.
So in this private Facebook group, you had posted basically, I think, how much revenue you had made in your business pretty quickly.
Oh, like when it was all happening at the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, are y'all seeing this? They weren't creating it. It was that group that that's where all my clients were coming from. But I was like, what is happening? Yeah.
What were kind of like the numbers, or like I kind of want to know the timeline and the numbers that were happening. And then I want to talk about how I tried to become your friend in 2013.
How I gotcha. Okay. So I started the business, like I had the idea, the twinkle, in about January, February of 2013. And then by the end of March and April, I was doing some free sessions. I offered some free sessions in this Facebook group because I was like, okay, I can help people with communication, specifically business owners with communication, but I wasn't sure if it would be public speaking or conversations or teaching or social media stuff or copy. And so I did free sessions to build my confidence, and I offered 10 of them. 24 ended up booking, and I was like, okay, I'll make that work. And then a few weeks after that, because I had all these testimonials from the free sessions, I went ahead and put out, well, I didn't even know what the offer was going to be, but I was like, hey, I'm going to put out an offer. Sign up here if you want to hear it about it, which is so weird, right? Like, results not typical. It's just a weird thing to do, to be like, hey, opt in so that I can offer you my service. There was no like value other than that. But it was kind of interesting because it was very meta, because I was modeling what I was helping them with. So if people were hooked in by the way that I was communicating through my writing, then that's what I was going to be helping them with, was attracting people through their writing. Then it made sense. You know, it's like passing out samples of cookies or whatever at the mall. So anyway, a bunch of people opted in for whatever this offer was going to be, which I decided to do a 1-hour session for $199, where I would get into a Google Doc and help people with their copy and helping them sound like themselves, be themselves online, like use their actual voice online. And so like 70 people took me up on it in this 10-day span, because I was offering for this 10-day, I didn't realize it was a launch, but that's what it was. For this 10-day span, I was saying, I'll do an hour with you for $199 with a bonus 30-minute session. So then when 70 people took me up on it, there were like 500 and something people that opted in to my splash page, maintenance mode page on the website that didn't yet exist. Then that was like $21,000 in the first 6 weeks of my business. But like I said, in this 10-day span, and my mind was blown. So I was basically, I say tweeting. I wasn't tweeting. It was in this Facebook group, but I was just kind of reporting live from the scene where it was happening. Like, what is happening? This is blowing my mind. Because at the time I was making $14 an hour on my park ranger gig, and then the part-time online course facilitation stuff. Yeah. But also, just to wrap that up for people who are like, what, huh? I do have more stories about that on my own podcast in more detail. But when 70 people took me up on it, I was like, oh poop, I can't do 70 30-minute sessions in addition to these one-on-one sessions. What am I going to do? I never thought that many people would take me up on it. So note, make sure if you're offering a bonus that it's a scalable leveraged bonus. I ended up saying, okay, I can't do these I'll honor it for sure, because that's what I offered. So if I need to, and it just rolls into next year, then great. But I actually offered to do a follow-up where they could send me a page or two of their copy and I would style it up for them, because I figured that would take me about 30 minutes. And once I had an hour with them and I got to know more about them, their voice, their dream clients, and what they were working on, then I felt more comfortable styling up the copy for them. So thankfully, all but maybe 2 or 3 of them took me up on that option, instead of doing a bonus real-time 30-minute session, to just send me their copy afterwards. So anyway, all that to say, 21 G's in the first 6 weeks, and I could not believe what was happening. It was a genuine WTF. Oh my gosh. I didn't realize everybody has a money tree.
A digital money tree.
Yeah. Like this little light of mine. I'm like, if everybody could realize what they have that other people value and build their own economy, as our friend Jen says, that would be amazing. So yeah.
And you're also a mom at this time, right?
Yes. Bryson was toddler, about 18-ish months old at that time.
I love that twin synchronicity. Synchronicity of,
I'm going to call it that for now.
Yeah. Because when I started my first brick and mortar business, when I lived on Kauai, Zoe was 18 months old. It feels like the time when you're kind of like, wait, I'm not just a mom.
Yeah.
I'm more than a mom.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of our conversation and our evolution of where we've grown, because people actually can't hire you for copy sessions anymore, which is pretty cool. And also, well, I feel like I get sneak peek access.
You keep me fresh.
Yes. But before we dive in a little bit more, basically you were sharing your business story in real time, you know, the 5-figure income in 6 weeks as a new mom. You also are kind of manning the home solo too, right? Because your husband was under the sea. Is that?
He wasn't under the sea yet at that point. So he was about to be going, like, later that year. And that's why I shifted from the one-on-one to the course, is because that's when he was going to start going away and he was going to have training across the country and blah, blah, blah. So at that point he was home. He was sometimes shift work, but yeah, he was in the Navy still, active duty, and eventually was under the sea. But at that point he was home, and or we were actually traveling. Actually, while that was happening, that actual week, me and Bryson were here in Texas for 3 weeks. So it actually happened while we were in Texas, all of that wildness.
So you were having a mobile business lifestyle. That was already
work from anywhere. Laptop lifestyle. Yeah.
I love it. And I think based on you sharing your story, we'll fast forward, but you built 6 figures in revenue in your business. Did you do that in year one of your business?
Yeah. The first launch of A Course About Copy was 50 G's. And so that pushed me over that $100,000 mark at month 10.
Yeah. So that's where I saw you. I saw what you were up to, but that's when I was like, ooh, because 2013 was kind of like my come up year as well, doing the $86,000 in 10 days. And there's something that happens when you're like you said, the digital, like the money tree. You want to find other people who are like, wait, do you know the secret too?
This too?
You were able to do it too. I'm not alone. And so when I saw that for you, I immediately reached out to you in like a private Facebook message, like, hey, I saw your post, like celebrating you for hitting the 6 figures. That's amazing. Because I think people get really triggered around money and numbers. And so as you were sharing your story, people were celebratory, but some people were also like, I don't know, mad?
Yeah. Mad question mark?
And so that's kind of like the beginning of our friendship. Was I was like, hey, want to mastermind, want to connect? Can you just share a little bit of like how you kind of filtered our friendship during that season of your life of building? Yes.
Well, as Jada said, she was a bad, and I was too, as it seemed, in our little pond of the internet. It was like, oh, wow, okay, big things are happening. So you start to look around for other people who you can relate to. And yet I was still head down, booty up, just doing the work. So like I would get friend invitations in my inbox, or people be like, you want to have a virtual coffee? I'm like, I don't even like real coffee. So, no, I wasn't being like rude like that, like in actual messages, but in my head, I was thinking, if I have an hour to work, I got to work, because I was still doing the 2 in the early months, still doing the 2 part-time jobs plus primary caregiver for Bryson. So I was like, I can't say yes to every invitation, and that's just real life. We all have boundaries. We only have so much amount of time, but I had seen you too. And this is the power that speaks to showing up, not just so that our clients can see and fall in love with us if they're the right fit, but also so potential friends can too, because it's like a vetting process. Like if you're going to Google somebody before you go on a date, when I started dating, Google didn't exist. And, it was a long time.
Totally.
But I imagine that if I was going on a date, I would be Googling the person. And so the same thing with the friends. So that digital footprint is really powerful. And it helped me filter if I only have so many times that I'm willing to dedicate to making new friends. Because most of my new business buddies at that time were like my clients. So they were paying to get that time. And then I was like working with them. And then we would fall in friendship, love, and all of that. So it meant a lot to me that you reached out, and it was an easy, yeah, okay. But I did gather us into a group, a group date bachelor.
It was like a leveraged friendship. Like, I can only do this if we like scale this friendship, where like the 5 of you that are courting me, we will all meet on a call at one time, which was, I know that was a long story to get to like how we connected and became friends, but I feel like we have so many stories and lifetimes of our friendship and evolution as entrepreneurs and mamas. But that's really how we connected. Was I boldly sent her a private Facebook message like, I see what you're doing. Congratulations. Would you like to connect and mastermind? And that's kind of where our friendship started.
And I just want to say, it felt so sincere and beautiful. And I really appreciated it, especially at that time, because I was being really triggered by triggering other people, because I was like, I'm not trying to share any of this to be an a-hole or arrogant, like, look at me. But I was just really like genuinely, oh my gosh, I was in awe of what was happening, and also in major gratitude, because it was these people that were becoming my clients and customers that were making it happen. But I understand that's uncomfortable for some people. And of course, everyone's on their own journey. So it's not going to happen that fast for everybody. And I understand that. But I was feeling I was about to start clamming up. And I did start clamming up, because I was like, oh no, it's not safe to shine. All that stuff that we go through, or many of us go through, when you do have a big success and you don't know where it's safe to share it. So I really appreciated you showing up in my inbox and offering that outlet. And that is true to this day, of like, my wins are your wins and your wins are my wins, where we're genuinely excited about whatever good news is happening.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And like the intent of sharing and having that safe space to share those big wins, because behind the scenes we have friends, having 7-figure weekends. Like, right. We're like,
lunch breaks, 7-figure lunch breaks.
But you do need safe spaces to celebrate yourself, to celebrate your wins. And so, I'm so thankful for that. And what I'd love to ask you, as I always ask in every Lead with Love conversation, is what does leading with love mean to you? And how do you put that into practice, whether that's in your business or in your personal life, just whatever feels most present for you right now?
Yeah, I would say leading with love to me looks like truth. So, and the truth is, we're all needed. We're all necessary. And ultimately, everybody just wants to be seen and loved and appreciated for who they actually are. So for me, if I'm, air quotes, leading, whether that's leading a Zoom call or speaking from the shrine room on the Arizona Memorial to 300 visitors who have come from all over the world to visit this sacred place, whatever that is, to me, it's about just showing up as myself and honoring that these other people, like just having an open heart to see us all on the same level playing field. To me, that's leading with love, because it's like, if I'm showing up as I am, hopefully that'll spark you to feel comfortable enough to show up as you are, whether that's morning hair, whether that's seemingly silly questions that other people might be afraid to ask, whether that's cracking a joke because you can tell somebody feels like they're supposed to put on a persona right there. Like, that's what leading with love looks like and feels like for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I've seen it in action so obviously we were digital Zoom friends for a while until we got to meet each other in person. It was actually in Las Vegas at a business event, an in-person conference in Las Vegas. And I remember meeting you and like, Nikki's so tall. But what I loved about you, like we were dancing, I think were we dancing like on the chairs or something? Like there was something.
It was like a bar, like table situation. It wasn't a table and it wasn't a bar, but it was like at the level of a bar. It was high up.
but we were having so much fun. Like we were dancing and like, but something that I remember about you was you're so inclusive and like you keep like you have circle of people, but I feel like you always have this little opening that there's room for you in this circle. And that was something that I noticed about you. I just, met you in person for the first time, but you were like, hey, this person awkwardly sitting or standing outside the circle, you would like call them in. And I just noticed just that. I don't know. I'm curious, like where that has come from for you. Like if you know a moment, like, do you feel that you are like, as you saying about leading with love, of making people feel seen and appreciated for exactly who they are, where they are in their lives. I do feel that from you. And I felt that from the very first moment that I met you, that you do open and want everyone to be seen and appreciated. And like, you're welcome in this circle. If we're all here, like you don't have to be outside. So I'm just curious where that comes from for you. If you like remember a moment where that really mattered or yeah.
Well, thank you for that reflection. It means a lot to me, and also is just so on brand for our friendship, for our dance parties, and such. Our travels around the world that make us sound really cool that we were dancing in Vegas, right? And that's when, was Deeky there? Yeah. So my sister came, so Deeky, newborn Deeky at the time, was there with us in Vegas, but not at the nightclub. I actually have thought about it just in the last year when I've been doing my own reflection work of like how authentic connection, which is basically what I'm talking about here, where it came from, right? Because the void creates the value. And I think it has a little bit to do with that I am tall with, big, often frizzy auburn hair and freckles. And I was always like a head above my friends, literally. And so I felt awkward, but thankfully my friends were still my friends. They weren't teasing me for how I stood out, but I literally stood out. So I was doing whatever I could to actually blend in, ironically, and help other people who might feel as awkward as I did. Like I always felt in between. I'm like, okay, y'all are my friends, but I still feel awkward even if you're accepting me. I don't know. So that I think is part of it, just physically being born and designed to stand out. I wanted to help connect myself with other people. So that is one thing. Also just being the youngest of 4 girls. And so just looking up to my big sisters, and I have a specific memory. I will not name her name. Her initials are S.O. And she was my sister Stacy's friend. And she came over and I really wanted to play with them. And she was like, no, you're not going to play with us, period. And I was like, what does period mean? But basically she wouldn't let me play with them. And it was a big wound for me. Like it was a big childhood wound. I felt really sad and left out. And so I never wanted to make other people feel that way, which may be way more detailed than you were expecting.
No, I wasn't. I wanted that depth.
Yeah. I think that's what it came from, was like being the youngest, wanting to play and like, go along, get along. I remember this is also probably why I love school and learning so much, because I was so excited to have homework because my sisters had homework. So, or like to go to school instead of just going along for the carpool. When I actually got to go to school like my big sisters, it was like, yes, I'm like my big sisters now. So I think those are all parts of the story. And of course, there are probably more that I haven't even consciously realized. But I just really feel like I remember even in high school and stuff, just like wanting to make eye contact with people and smile and say hi. And you just never know during the day, like what somebody's going through or what they're thinking or what they might think you have it all together, or that you're having a great day or whatever. But just to help people be like, I see you, we're here, and I'll be goofy, because at Pearl Harbor, for example, where I don't know if I still am, but for years I was the digital park ranger. So people would go into the theater, see my intro to the documentary that they play, and then come out to the boat and be a little starstruck. Like I actually had a couple of people ask for autographs and stuff. So I'd be a little self-deprecating to help them realize like, no, really, because they would think it was some actress that they hired. And then when they see me with my windblown hair, like crinkled uniform shirt and stuff, they're like, are you the girl in the video? And I'm like, yeah. And I would joke like I was having a better hair day, but some people would bet each other money if it was me or not. Somebody lost $20 once.
It's so cool. I love it. And I do feel like, the way that we show up and create our businesses and our contribution often do come from that place of a childhood wound or some type of hurt or something that we don't want other people to ever experience. And I feel so lucky that I'm like, I get to have Nikki as my friend. Like you kind of this series for season 3 of Lead with Love podcast has been about, I'm not hiding, I'm healing. And I really had to I just didn't have the capacity to be in all, I have groups of friends that are in my close inner circle, but being in a space of grief, you were really the only other human outside of my family that I had capacity to let you in on what was going on in my world and how I was navigating that. And so I just feel so thankful to experience your way of showing up in friendship, because I feel very lucky, blessed to have you in my corner in that way.
Well, same. And I think that's what makes our friendship so priceless, because I realized that you literally had no bonus capacity to go around to share things. So to be able to be that lockbox for you was a privilege and an honor of my lifetime. And that goes for the ups, the downs, and everything in between. I feel so thankful for you. I just love you so much.
And I also want to share, just as we're still talking about friendships and things, is I feel like when we took our friendship a level deeper was actually having a slumber party in Carmel, California at a mastermind event. So I'm just going to keep adding in all the places that we've explored the world, because Nikki is no longer in Hawaii. She's in Texas and I'm in California. So we're still many thousands of miles away from each other, but we find ways to connect with each other in different little pins across the map in the world. I think it's important to kind of share kind of the layers of our friendship and kind of peeling back the layers. And I feel like that's one of the moments where I was like, oh, I really, really, really like Nikki a lot. And I remember I had that moment of, what did I do? I think I started crying.
Remember with the fireplace going in our little double bedroom.
And it was one of those moments of being excluded from a table, something I hadn't experienced, because I was doing well in my business, but I was on the end of kind of exiting I did exit Simple Green Smoothies at this time.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I sat down at a table and everyone got up and left.
Not just because it's because they were going to talk to somebody else that they wanted to go schmooze or something.
Yeah,
it wasn't just ooh, Jada stinks.
Right. It was the speaker, and because usually I'm the speaker at the events or different things. So I had to experience that feeling of oh, wow. They just got up and left, and I was eating lunch, table for one at one of those round tables for 12 people. So then I remember coming back into the space and I cried. I was and so for me, I don't cry very often. So it just goes to show just the safe space that you create for that friendship of just being able to be vulnerable of I felt really left out and that was embarrassing. And oh my gosh, nobody likes me.
And you were laughing too. That's when I first heard you describe crafting.
Yes. And crafting is crying and laughing at the same time, because it's so sad.
It was a roller
funny.
Oh,
and I know, something that you talk about is being able to, I guess something that you mentioned in the beginning of your story of becoming an entrepreneur and also being a mama. And I get behind the scenes peeks of actually your book that's coming out very, very soon. Can you tell me the title of the book?
It's called Naptime Empires, named after the podcast, Naptime Empires. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm going to link to both of those. But something that you were talking about was, not having the capacity. I have an hour to work, which you called this profitable. Well, in Nikki terms, you call it profitable prios.
Yeah.
But if you want to explain that for us listeners of what that actually means.
Yeah. So the concept of profitable priorities is exactly what it sounds like, which is really prioritizing the stuff that's actually going to move the needle for profit in your business, because it's really easy, surprisingly easy, even when you only have pockets of time, whether that's because of kids or a day job or caregiving for a family member or hobbies or whatever it is. It's surprisingly easy to distract yourself with who knows what, doodling and making Instagram images or even putting up your website. And I'm all about having a website. But as I mentioned also earlier, I didn't have a full-blown website before I got all these clients. I think it was 100 clients that I had signed up to work with me that summer before I actually had a website of copy. I was just communicating with them through social media and through emails and stuff. So it's like really getting clear on what are the things that actually make a difference for you. Bottom line, revenue, yes, and profit. So think about the things, what were the last activities you were doing right before you made a sale, which is funny for me because the last 2 clients that I got, I don't necessarily recommend trying this at home, but the last 2 client inquiries came in from when I was like, I posted a bump photo because I just recently, at the time we're recording this, Noe is almost 8 weeks old, but I posted a bump photo like of me pregnant in my Instagram stories, and a friend, now client, was like, tell me about your offers, just because I showed up in her line of sight. And then another person who I don't think knew me very well yet, I had shared my birth story in this Netflix style saga of Instagram stories. And that's what led her to show up in my inbox. So it seems funny and maybe counterintuitive, but both of those were just really genuinely, purely inspired things that I shared. And I feel like that little energy sent out a beacon of light to the right people on their hearts to be like, I want to reach out to her. I really do like her. And I feel like she could show up for me in a way that's valuable and meaningful. So to me, those profitable priorities are those kinds of things, of that inspired expression that puts a direct line between me and the people that are considering working with me in some capacity. It could be emails, it could be messaging, it could be reaching out to potential promotion partners or something like that. But it's not scrolling Instagram, and it's not obsessing over a subject line, and it's not rearranging my credit card receipts. All of those things, can have and serve their purpose, but they're not necessarily profitable priorities.
Yeah. And can we just say also that we do all of those things, you and I, like
100%.
that we scroll and we send each other Instagram memes. And we also like him and ha over subject lines and podcast title, like episode titles. So I also just want because I think it's so helpful for people to know, like, you'll do those things and be clear that's not a profitable priority.
Yes, it's the awareness that's the key. It's having this concept in your brain so that you can check in with yourself and be like, okay, if I'm complaining about not making enough in my business, let me check. Have I actually handled any or really prioritized any profitable priors lately? No. Okay. Okay. I guess I need to make a list. So if nothing else, just make a list. But like I said, even that one question of what did you do your last few, and I wouldn't even say sales or new clients, but clients that you love or customers that you have loved to show up and serve, what were you doing that led them to you? It could be like this, podcast conversations. I know both of us have gotten a lot of clients and customers from conversations like this because it's just showing up and being who you are so that people can raise their hand and be like, I want to do business with you. What does that look like?
Yeah, I love that you said that I wouldn't recommend doing this at home, but I actually think the last 2 ways that your profitable priorities of just showing up authentically as you are, I think that's the permission slip that you are giving to people and being an exemplary model of there's a different way to create content, to show up, to add value, that you're valuable just as you are without needing to be like, here are the 3 tips to avoid to
Great point.
I think that that's what you and I, we're little rebels behind the scenes, and you can't make us do anything that we don't want to do. And so I think we're also paving a new way of how we can show up and market and connect with those dream clients and customers that we want to work with. That just shining, just being who you are, authentically who you are, which I think is such a huge stand that you take no matter what, is actually like a pathway of kind of being the lighthouse, right? I think there's this quote by Anne Lamott about being the lighthouse, and I know I'm missing it. Exactly.
Oh, right. The lighthouse and not the tugboat where you just turn up and turn your light on rather than running out there to grab the clients and try to bring them in. And that makes perfect sense. And I'm glad that you said that. And the roundabout way to close that loop is to say, don't try this at home if you don't actually have an offer that you're clear that you would offer. If somebody was like, I like your bump shot or your birth story, how can I work with you? Do have some ideas of how people can work with you and know who you want to work with and that kind of thing. And then, show up however you are. Exactly. You're right. That's the practice, is to unlearn it has to be helpful information, how to blah, 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 to be valuable. Because that's not true. People do just want to know who you are. That's what sets you apart from the so-and-so the next tab over, is those stories. Like I'm stretching this out into like 4 days. My camping story right now on Instagram. What I'm sharing is the story of our first camping trip. Does that have anything to do with business? No. Does it have anything to do with business? Yes, because what I'm trying to help people do is prioritize what matters most. And what matters most to us at that time was to go camping and then reschedule any appointments that were in that time.
Yeah, it's such a good reminder for me as I start to kind of peel back the layers of like, how much do I want to share online? How much? And I think that authentic sharing of just like what's up and what matters the most to us. I think I love that. Like I'm just planting that seed for myself. I found the quote by Anne Lamott. It says, lighthouses don't go running all over an island looking for boats to save. They just stand there shining.
Love it.
Yeah. So you talked about profitable priorities, and you also slipped in an extra little name, right? So we said Bryson, we said Deaky, we said Noe. So can you just fast forward me to present day on your family situation as you're also serving clients, writing your first book? Like, just what is the family setup right now?
Yes, our fall to winter 2020 snapshot is there's me and Jeremy. We've been married for 12 years, but together for kind of 22. That's a story for another day. So there's me and Jeremy, and we have 3 kiddos. Bryson just turned 9. Deaky is 4, almost 5. And then our little Noe is, like I said, almost 8 weeks right now.
Wow. Like I'm just like in awe that you have a newborn.
I know. But she doesn't look like a newborn anymore. She's already 3 or 4 months old.
So can you just tell me about so basically this year, I've been calling it my creative cocoon. And I feel like you and I have been deep in it together, like holding hands and like working our way through. But one of the big commitments of 2020 and you being pregnant was actually around writing a book. Can you just bring me to the book conversation it's so interesting.
Are you trying to spark me to edit it after we hang up? Are you trying to get me re-inspired? Okay, so as we mentioned, I have a podcast called Naptime Empires. Shada was one of my first guests. We recorded our conversation back in 2016 for it, and then it launched early 2017 is when I started. Yeah. So Naptime Empires has been around for quite some time in podcast form. And I've false started the book multiple times, like hired multiple book coaches to hold me accountable to doing it. But as Jada mentioned, we're a bit rebellious in that sense. We're like, if we don't want to do it, we're not going to do it. And so it was like, even if I hired somebody to hold me accountable, it was like, nope, it's not the time. Turn around, abort the mission. So this year, though, I was boxing with Jada and I was like, okay, what I realized, it was March of 2020. And I was almost through the first trimester with Noelle. And I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. Because after I had Deacon, I was thinking, I just kind of lost touch with myself with business. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. It was kind of a big values shift. There were all kinds of things going on. And I didn't know what's going to happen after I have her. Like, am I going to want to work on business? Am I going to have creative? It's going to be amazing. And I'm going to want to create all kinds of things. Or am I just going to want to just be focused on being present and physically here and have nothing to do with business? So I was like, if I'm going to do this book, especially if it's Naptime Empires, this is the time, because we're restarting our nap clock because Deaky had grown out of naps. I was like, this is great branding, perfect timing, kid. Like, let me use you for my marketing. But really, I was like, this is the perfect time for me to channel this creative energy while I'm straddling both worlds with this little spirit who seems to be wanting to visit us for real this time. Like, let's do this. And quarantine and lockdown and all that had just started. And we were made for times such as these to be in our day jammies working from home. So once I committed and I was like, Jada, I could see no matter how much money I make this year, I don't even really care. But if I have this healthy baby on my shoulder and my book on my coffee table that doesn't exist. And again, I don't drink coffee, but visualizing, that's what I was thinking. If I had this baby and a book, that would mean more to me rolling into 2021 than any financial goal. Like, I just felt like that would make me feel more myself than anything else that I could do. So then we started to make it real, and I locked it in, and Jada babysat me with some co-working sessions, and I logged in, and eventually I drafted the first draft of the book, which was like 90 something thousand words in 10 days. Yeah. And then I sat on it for like weeks or months, and then I would do another editing pass and another editing pass. And as we record this, which is the middle of November of 2020, I've got like one final pass and kind of odds and ends to pull together, the book guts, as our friend Asul calls them. And then it's going to be ready to self-publish. I guess it'll be the beginning of 2021. I'll still print some kind of hard copy from FedEx before the end of the year so that I have the copy here, the physical copy. But once I locked in on that vision, I was like, this has to happen. And so it is.
Yeah. Like, it's just so cool because we've been seriously in parallel play of sinking in, because we've been talking about this. I know you mentioned like value shifting after having Diki, and we've kind of been on that trajectory together, right? Like, I exited Simple Green Smoothies at the end of 2016, and I'm just like, who am I? What am I? What do I want to be known for? Yes. And we have just been broken records for each other over the past couple of years. I don't know how many Eeyore images we've like gifs or GIFs or whatever that we've been sending to each other in Voxer. And like, I don't know, our spark, like I know what you call like how to spark legit and sustainable inspiration on demand, is refining your F management system, which I want you to talk about. But that, I don't know, we just lit the spark this year of, I would feel more myself. That's what you said. I would feel more myself if I had Healthy Baby and a book on your coffee table, even though you don't drink coffee. And I feel like we were just on repeat for the past 3 years of like, I want a book. I want to do this. It's like the same stuff over and over again.
Author pants. We've been coveting our author pants. Like, we know we're meant to write books. We know we're meant to do it. We're not doing it, but we know it's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Yeah.
Right. But then we were feeling so disengaged from our work because we weren't aligned. Like, we weren't doing the thing that we really wanted to be doing that like fully expressed who we are and what we want to step into next. And I think you making that declaration and commitment for 2020, I was like, yep, I'm on board. I didn't do 96,000 words. I did 30,000 words in 3 days. I guess if I kept writing, I could. But I think that we've been like really holding each other and being mirrors and being, as you say, is like running buddies to like keep each other moving forward. And we kind of get each other out of the ruts or the writing blocks or the mental blocks that do come and kind of slow us down in some way. But that's actually the sustainable way to do it. So can you talk about refining your F management system, which I know you talk about inside the Naptime Empires book?
Yes. And I also just want to circle back to like 2019 was such a year of big loss for both of us in very different forms, right? So it was like by the time we were rolling into this year, and just for context, I had not one, but 2 very early miscarriages last summer once I decided to take my squad trip homework of, yes, I do want a 3rd baby. It's time to start trying. I took that homework very seriously and got pregnant a couple times over the summer. And so it was like, after that, it was a wake-up call for me to slow down a minute and recalibrate and be like, what do I really want? How do I want to show up for this life, whether or not we end up having another little one join our family? So by the time the new year started, and even then, I remember texting you in December over the holidays about my dream where I took the pregnancy test and the line just kept getting darker. And then I also had the dream about having the Naptime Empires book out by Mother's Day. And so it's like, that's another benefit of our Voxer threads. It's like we have these screenshots and time capsules of these big moments where we just made the decision and moved forward. And so we both started the year, I think, with our heads in a very different place, like our heads and our hearts on straight, or at least more grounded than, of course, they would have been in 2019 when we were just kind of flowing with the waves of what life was handing us. So all that to say, the F management system, I say F and I'm saying it as EFF, like a mom-friendly F-bomb. And it's really because a lot of times people will say, I don't give an F or 0 Fs given. And I don't think that's I think it's neither possible nor a goal, because of course we care about things. We are human. We're not complete, pure divine spirit where we have no preference or judgment. Like, we do care about things. So it's just about caring about things that actually genuinely matter to us. And that's where the values come in. Like, what do you actually value? And so the big shift for me after Deke was born was when I realized, oh my gosh, I talk about it actually at the beginning of the book, which is scary to say now that, oh my gosh, okay, we've made it through enough editing passes. I feel pretty confident that's how the book starts. I don't think I'm going to be changing it. But at the beginning of the book, I talk about this moment where Deke was a few weeks old. Jeremy was about to deploy. My parents were about to leave, and it was just going to be us. And I realized later that year, Bryson was going to be 5. And I just broke down in tears because I was like, it's going so fast. This isn't how I want to spend it, with my head in my laptop, blah, blah, blah. Because I'm like, at least he had 18 months before I started my business. And Deke was practically born on a live webinar in December of 2015. And so I was like, how do I want to show up? And so everything shifted, and business went like, if you imagine somebody falling down the stairs and bouncing on their booties, it's like business just went boom, 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 boom down the ladder, where it was like, no, okay, we're set financially because we had been saving a lot, and there were lots of profitable priorities in those earlier years. And business took the back seat. And that was an identity crisis, because our values shape our identity. So if I didn't care about business, then what did I care about? Who am I? Where am I? What am I? And so everything shifted. That's when it made space for this Naptime Empires conversation, as opposed to a very informational, skills-based copy business. So when you were leaving Simple Green Smoothies and I was kind of leaving a course about copy like it was notebook paper stuck to my shoe, I just couldn't let it go. And so that was a shift, but it took me so long to see it for what it was. I felt a lot of guilt at the time, and now I feel so much gratitude for the Hustle Bun's first few years, because she created the reality that I'm able to live right now. She also created the savings account and investments accounts that I'm able to live off of right now. So it was like, once I realized that and I didn't make myself wrong for that shift, that's when I started to lighten up, because it was really hard. It was really hard to not know if my identity had quickly, even though I wasn't expecting that quick success, once I saw that quick success, I was like, oh crap, okay, this is what I'm capable of. So I'm supposed to make $1 million in my second year of business. That's what everyone else expects of me. So I'm supposed to do that. And it's that or bust, like it was that or failure in my mind. And so that was a little harsh and a little intense. And it's taken a few years for me to unravel all of that, which is now what I help my clients unravel too, which is just because you can doesn't mean you should or that you even want to. And so refining your F management comes down to identifying what those highest values are and letting them be, and not making yourself wrong for caring about exactly what you care about and nothing that you don't. So it makes it a lot easier to say yes or no, because you know what you value. And if it doesn't relate or can't link to it somehow, then it's just not for you right now. And you can just trust, if it comes back, Mariah Carey style, butterfly, if it'll come back if it's meant to be.
Oh my gosh, now I have to go play that song. It's so good. Something that I appreciate is also remembering, like you mentioned, in 2019 was a year of loss and setbacks and just like managing our expectations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of, I thought I was going to have a book proposal out in 2018. I just did it 2 years later. But also what happens is we'll look at the timeline and just look at the numbers, and that will F with us.
Yep.
Where it's like, if we actually but what was happening between 2018 and 2020? There was loss, there was grief, there were things that were unexpected that did take the priority of where our heart and attention was. Also, even in healing our own bodies, our emotional selves, those things matter. And I feel like that's something that we, have been really prioritizing behind the scenes, is also just putting ourselves on the top of our to-do list to prioritize our bodies and our emotions and processing all the stuff so that we can be more of who we truly are, which I think is your magic of giving people permission to just show up as you are.
Yeah. And that's also, I'm imagining a little inchworm, because I think it's important, and just for us to anchor this in for future selves and everyone listening, of course, whenever we set our own timeline, I love that you say, what do you say? Don't put a timeline on your dreams, but a timeline on your actions. And so it's funny how we will catch ourselves and each other when we're like, we have all this space. So the inchworm is stretched out. And then all of a sudden we're trying to cram a whole lot into a little bitty segment. And then it's like, oh yeah, this is all self-imposed. Like for me with the book stuff, at first I wanted to have the book out before the baby came out and blah, blah, blah. Okay, no, I'm going to relax that a little bit. Okay, now I want to have it all in this timeline before the end of the year. Oh, right. But I'm the one deciding that. It's self-published, for Pete's sake. I can relax a little bit and enjoy these few months. Like it's self-imposed. So I just think of the inchworm where it's like, okay, remind yourself of the things and the timelines that you can absolutely control. And when things feel stressy or crunchy or not enjoyable and you're feeling guilt around not getting something done, check back in with your values. Like for me, like I said, we went camping and it was fun. It's something we've been talking about and dreaming about for years. And then we finally bought an RV a few weeks ago, and still can't believe we did it, but we did. And so it's like, it was fun. It was worth it. It was not worth me getting the laptop out and doing whatever I thought I was going to do when I packed the laptop on this RV trip. That was cute. I was so young and naive. But then I'm like, oh, right. I'm actually, voxing Jada to be like, oh yeah, I don't have to do it on this timeline. I made that ish up and I can change it if I want to. And then the inchworm can relax a little bit, but we're still moving. The inchworm is still moving and making progress, forward motion. It's just taking a little time sometimes to catch up with yourself and give yourself an extended timeline as you can, as needed.
Yeah. And I know something that you say to kind of help adjust our expectations is #both sides.
Yeah.
Can you just I'm just curious about embracing both sides and what that means and how we can apply that in our own lives.
Well, it means all kinds of things and has all kinds of applications, from character traits to, defining yourself as, I was talking about this with a client today, like a people pleaser. Well, at the same time, you're displeasing yourself, so it's like it's both sides. So if you're trying to please other people, but you're actually ticking yourself off because you're saying no to what you actually want. And then likewise, what I was saying to her to help flip it and make it easier for her to let go of the people pleasing, it might sound harsh and you might not want to let go. You're like, well, I love those people and I care about those people. So instead of thinking about them as opposites, realize that even when you're choosing to, air quotes, please yourself instead, there are also benefits to them. So for example, if I didn't want to ask my husband to make me lunch while I'm on this podcast conversation because I thought that'd be putting him out. So I'm choosing to, air quotes, people please him by saying, no, I'm good, I'll do it. But also by saying no and thinking that that's going to be easier for him, I'm robbing him of the opportunity to be of service, to feel like he's adding value, to feel like he's providing for me in that way. So, or if somebody's asking for your help and you say, I just can't do it. Well, you're also helping them figure out how to be resourceful, find other ways and other people that they can depend on and expand their network. If they were always depending on you, now they realize that they can depend on other people too and learn how to ask for help or whatever. So anyway, that's one micro example. The other example, generally business speaking, is that at some point I thought it had to be hard, right? And it was hustle mode. And then I swung the pendulum over to ease, and everything needs to be ease and flow and la, la, la. Now I'm realizing the integration is in both sides. And with inspiration, like you don't have to wait for the inspiration fairy to come tap you on the shoulder. You can spark it when you know what you care about. That goes back to F management and values. Like you can spark your inspiration, but also know that it's not always going to be easy. Even the stuff that is really aligned, I got perfectionisty about, is it aligned and inspired? And then I'm not doing any work at all. Well, sometimes you show up because it's worth it. It may not be easy, but it's worth it. The stuff that you care about is worth the challenge and the discomfort. So you just choose your discomfort of like not showing up for your dreams and how that sucks. Like that feeling really sucks a lot. And sometimes it sucks a lot to show up for your dreams and put your booty in the seat and do the writing or do the editing and do the little things that are in the weeds. So it's just about expecting and knowing that both sides are necessary, required, and perfect, actually. And then it can be applied to parenting, knowing that, again, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. And she's so adorably cute and precious to make it worth it when I am waking up at 2 a.m. and using my eyebrows to pull my eyelids open to be like, oh gosh, okay, I can't snooze you with your binky anymore. This is serious. This is not a drill. You're hungry and you need to eat and I need to get up, but you're really cute. And so we'll make it worth it. Yeah. And it's about realizing support and challenge are both necessary. And that's something I learned from John DeMartini, that growth comes from both support and challenge. If it's only support, we're going to get bored. If it's only challenge, we're going to get burnout. But if we have both, we can grow.
Yeah, I feel like that's like our tag team, that we're doing both of that 24/7 through our Voxers and showing up to get our booties in the seat to do the things that we really care about. And I'm so excited to have been in this creative cocoon with you all year and all the years. Yes. But it feels so good to be in spark mode of our creation and our expression. I feel like it was worth all the indecision and fatigue and confusion the previous years as kind of like settling our hearts and grieving and all of those pieces. So I'm so thankful for that.
Same. And another visual that I think of is like the squiggle, because and I know you had other businesses too before Simple Green Smoothies, but it's like both of those businesses, our trajectory was like that straight line up almost. And then there's that cartoon where it's like what you think entrepreneurship or parenthood or pick anything is going to look like, and then what it actually looks like, where there's the line and then the squiggle, and then it goes backwards and forwards and up and down and around, and then it keeps going. And I feel like we just needed to have that squiggle season, that character building squiggle season, so that we could, well, honestly, help our clients through it, because we do like to help these high-powered humans who are so used to go perform, it's excellent, gold star, above and beyond, all of those things. And sometimes you do need to slow down to speed up, as we say. So we just created the squiggle. Which is the perfect analogy for our lazy river. Yes. Like, we just needed to circle around and circle around, and then we can pick it up when we want to pick it up.
Yes. Nikki, I love you so much. There's a million other things I want to talk about, but I feel like we'll have another conversation to go deeper into all of the many things that we talk about behind the scenes. Yes. And letting people into some of those conversations that we're having. Is there anything that you feel called to share in this moment, or something that we haven't said already that you would like to wrap this conversation up with?
I mostly would like to publicly profess my love and gratitude for you and your friendship and your leadership. I mean, it's such a beautiful thing that you said behind the scenes before we started recording, where you're like, my intention is just for people to fall more in love with you. And I mean, that's just such a beautiful intention for every guest that you have on the show. And I'm so thankful that you are out and recording and showing up for this third season. And I had my third season of Naptime Empires too, so they're sisters and BFFs as well, podcast BFFs. But I'm just so thankful that you did reach out and put yourself out there through the Facebook message, because I cannot imagine this lifetime without you.
My Polly Pocket. Love you to the moon and back, Nikki.
I know, we'll keep talking on Voxer in 3 minutes.
Totally. And if people want to get their hands on Naptime Empires book, where should they go?
Yeah, I'll have naptimeempires.com, and then naptimeempiresbook.com will lead directly to it once it's ready, wherever and however it's ready. There's kind of a wait list, but also a subscriber experience, if you will. That was another productive thing that I whipped out before this baby came, where it's a teaser, like it's an email and audio guide, the Naptime Empires Survival Guide. So if you sign up there, wherever you see it, it'll just kind of give you a taste of the practical pep talks that'll come along, like a precursor to the book as well. But everywhere, Naptime Empires, NikkiElledgeBrown.com, at Nikki Elledge Brown on Instagram.
And Nikki is already working on, mentally working on her next book. So just so you know, you definitely want to follow, because you just say the things in the best, most clearest, concise, loving ways. So I can't wait to get my hands on your first book, your second, your third, however many books your author pants wants to produce. I'm here for all of it. I love you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for your heart and attention and listening to Lead with Love. You can always get the links and resources mentioned in each episode over at leadwithlovepodcast.com, so that you can build a sustainable business and live a creative life on your terms. if this message, Leading with Love, resonates with you, and you want to take a stand for remembering that there are humans with beating hearts behind the numbers, I would love for you to subscribe so you never miss an episode and leave an honest review. It would mean the world to me, and it also helps more people spread more love in the world, which we really, really need. I also love hearing from you. So as you're listening, take a screenshot, share your favorite takeaway, and tag me on Instagram and Facebook at Jada Selner. I really appreciate you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.